You can lock the bolt back with your right hand and drop it. Pretty cool. Hey, how's it going? So a little over a year ago, I started researching the options that are on the market when it comes to ambidextrous lowers for ARs. I don't really care about an ambidextrous magazine release, but I was very interested in an ambi bolt release. The bolt drop is the only control on an AR that isn't right-hander friendly, requiring you to move your support hand from its firing position to hit it. This isn't really a huge deal, and I can still reload very quickly, but I still wanted to explore the options to see if there was, an improvement that could be made easily. I quickly found that most of the options were either of questionable quality or very expensive, except the solution that I decided to go with, the PDQ lever from Teal Blue Bravo. The first and most obvious choice is the Magpul BAD lever and similar devices. BAD stands for Battery Assist Device, which is a cool as fuck name for a lackluster product, in my opinion. I've only used one once and was not impressed with it. It doesn't feel very sturdy, and I'm not a fan of putting controls inside the trigger guard. That's a great way to end up with a negligent discharge. I know there are lots of people who run these and never ND, but for me, safety is a big priority, and I don't want to risk an ND while I learn how to safely operate the BAD lever. The main benefit of the BAD lever is not only is it pretty cheap, but it does not require modification of your lower receiver to use. So I can definitely see the appeal of the product if you're scared to cut on a lower receiver. Next, I looked at potentially getting a from-the-factory ambidextrous lower like the Radian ADAC. I quickly passed on the Radian after seeing the price tag, however. I can tell you from personal experience with their charging handles and safeties that Radian makes fantastic stuff and their customer service is amazing. But holy shit, that much for a lower is just outside my price range. The ADAC is also a true ambi lower, allowing you to both drop the bolt and lock the bolt back with your right hand from a firing grip, unlike some lowers that I'll go over in a second. On the ADAC, you lock the bolt back by holding the magazine release while charging the weapon, a neat control that doesn't require the addition of another button. Quote-unquote fake ambi lowers, like the CMT lower pictured here, usually have a button that allows you to drop the bolt with your right hand, but have no functionality to allow you to lock the bolt back. Now for the most part, this isn't going to be a huge issue, because more than likely you're going to be dropping the bolt more often than you are locking it back, but for the price point, a lot of these only half ambidextrous lowers really aren't worth the asking price in my opinion. Another slightly cheaper option in the true ambi lower camp is the ADM UIC. This has a... wait a minute, isn't that just a PDQ? Not really, but it works similarly, and the lever is placed lower, making it more ergonomic. But again, for over $400, I'd rather spend my money elsewhere. And by the way, for those familiar with the SIG Spear, from what I can tell, the ambi bolt drop on the Spear is functionally identical to the PDQ. It just looks different. SIG's really out here copying homework and hope no one would notice. Bruh. So after all that, I looked back at the PDQ lever. It's not a cheap part at around $60, but it's far cheaper than a factory ambi lower, and is constructed with much better quality than a BAD lever. The only issue is that you must permanently modify your lower receiver to use it. It requires a cut across the channel the normal bolt release sits in, and a bit of filing on the hump, for the lack of a better term. I've done this with a hand file on two lowers, a Poverty Pony lower that was a test, and on an Aero M4E1 lower that I later SBR'd. Teal Blue Bravo has a video showing you how to do it too. Check it out. It took maybe 30 minutes with hand tools and will take far less time with the Dremel. It also wasn't difficult. I think I was watching Family Guy funny moments when I did it. I used some Birchwood Casey aluminum blackening solution to make it look nice, and voila, it worked. I had to go back in and do some extra filing since at first it was a very tight fit, but after some extra filing, the PDQ lever worked fine. At first I used the lower on my 16-inch upper and found out quickly not to use the Aero M4E1 upper with the PDQ. This extra bit of material they added to contain the dust cover rod blocks your finger from hitting the PDQ except for the very edge of the lever. That's not great, so I swapped my upper to a normal mil-spec upper and had enough clearance to use the lever well. I then SBR'd the lower and began using it with my new at the time 10.3-556 upper and a 10.5 300 blackout upper. This is when I noticed something interesting. When using the PDQ with my 10.3 inch upper, I can actually press the dust cover instead of the PDQ lever itself, and this will still push the PDQ down and close the bolt. This is awesome for me at least, because pressing the dust cover is more ergonomic and doesn't require me to break a firing grip. When I tried to do the same trick with my 300 Blackout upper, it didn't budge. I have no clue why, but that's an interesting thing to note. I think it might have something to do with the M4E1 upper again. So the obvious benefit of Ambi bolt controls is faster reloads and malfunction clearing. And as usual, I like to try to quantify the benefits a product provides, so I did some one reload ones with and without the Ambi PDQ functionality and timed them.
That 2.6 round. That was a 194. That is fucking cooking. That was still quick. Go.
My average one reload one speed was 2.55 seconds with the normal bolt release, and 2.19 when using the PDQ. That's a pretty good increase in speed, but not such a huge difference that I feel like I need this on all my lowers. My only real complaint about the PDQ is that it sits kinda high on the right side of the gun. I can press it, it just requires me to break my firing grip, except when used with my upper that lets me just press the dust cover. Other than that, it might reduce reliability just a tiny bit since there's now another opening in the lower for sand and dirt to get in, but I doubt that'll be an issue because the lever is occupying that space and not letting shit in. In conclusion, if you're looking to convert a lower to be fully ambidextrous, the PDQ is a good choice, provided you're somewhat competent with hand tools and don't mind cutting on a lower. If you cut the lower yourself, make sure to go slowly and check fitment frequently. But as always, it honestly doesn't matter that much whether you have a PDQ or a bad lever or whatever. What matters is that you're training, going outside, getting exercise, not being a fat fuck like me, and overall just living your best life. Take care.
I'm gonna be guessing.